right, let's talk about Canada, and let's talk about free speech. It's getting to a point that it's getting so ridiculous. I mean, Jordan Peterson's been talking about this for a long period of time. And now what we're seeing most recently is this.
On that hate crime offence, if you could just clarify, I mean, it comes with a potential penalty of life imprisonment.
Notice how he nods his head, you know what I mean? And like confirmation about, life in prison.
Penalty of life imprisonment. Could you just clarify for us how that would work? I mean, what kind of offences do you envisage could carry that kind of offence? And are you saying that it's no longer an aggravating factor, that it could be a standalone offence? But could you give us some examples of that?
Okay, so in terms of the second part of your question, we're not eliminating the aggravating factor.
Right.
But what we are doing, it's a little bit easier for me in English, what we are doing is creating a freestanding hate crimes offence, which touches any possible delict or crime under the Criminal Code of Canada. And I think what is important about it is that it gives the police and it gives prosecutors more flexibility in terms of contemplating this aspect on the front end of their deliberative exercise, on the front end of how they will conduct their prosecutions. Very importantly, this does not require AG consent. The other hate crimes components, promoting genocide, willful promotion of hatred, things like the anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial offense, require the Attorney General's consent, as does the peace bond that I just mentioned. This provision is something that can be laid it can be initiated on an arrest warrant by a police officer and continued by the Crown, absent the consent of me or a provincial Attorney General. That is very, very important in terms of giving more tools to law enforcement, but secondly, it's important for denouncing what we are seeing right now. And that is critical. Everything you've just heard from people like Carla, everything that I have heard over the last year is that hate is on the rise in this country. We need to be providing more tools, not less, to denounce the hatred that we are seeing, and this will do exactly that.
All right, so let's read what the freedom of expression in Canada is. Freedom of expression in Canada is protected as a fundamental freedom by Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. However, in practice, the Charter permits the government to enforce reasonable limits censoring speech. Okay, key word right there in all of that is however. However, in practice. That's a loophole. They can stop you from saying anything. Okay, I mentioned Jordan Peterson, and I've got a great deal of respect for the man. And he's been fighting about free speech in Canada for many years. And we as Americans have just been like, oh, that's up there, that's up north. It's not going to affect us. Yeah, it's going to affect us. And we need to stand up for our Canadian brothers and sisters up there and talk about what's going on there. We have to stop it in Canada, contact anybody you know in Canada, get them to activate, look into what's going on in Canada and make it known. Get on video, post about it. We have to help Canada keep its free speech. Because if you don't think it's coming down here, I got news for you. Take a look at this clip. It's actually very well produced. I recommend you follow his channel. The link is in the description of this video.
The Ontario College of Psychologists decided in their wisdom that I am required to undertake re-education lessons.
I'm not stopping.
All the justifications for censorship are based on the idea that if people think and speak freely, they will share dangerous thoughts. If you don't believe that man can express himself freely, how can he have the judgment to control what others express?
Is free speech and free expression in Canada under attack? From government plans to censor and regulate the internet to regulatory bodies demanding the re-education of those who disagree, has one of the foundational values of our democracy begun to erode? Should courts really be targeting comedians whose jokes some find distasteful? Should politicians be restricting protests of those whose views they find obscene? Or, as Voltaire said, should we defend to the death our right to disagree?
Once you try to disempower the freedom of expression of an entire class of person, it suddenly starts to look very authoritarian.
This is a guy who is authoritarian. When he says, I'm coming to regulate the internet, we should believe him.
My name is Aaron Gunn, and this is Politics Explained.
All right, so we got liberal Democrats that are trying to stop free speech. And they're pushing for it. They don't know what they're doing because ultimately they're going to lose their free speech. They think They want to shut up the people that are either conservative or Christian. So free speech is being threatened throughout the Western world. That's obvious. And Canada has been under attack for a number of years. They are basically saying that you can go to life in prison, and they're enabling the police to be able to pull people in and arrest them for if they think that offense has happened. So the police are being emboldened in Canada to actually stop free speech. By their perception of it, they can arrest them. And then by the perception of the judge in Canada, they can put them away for life. That's what's being proposed. Do you understand what's happening? Do you understand what's happening in the West? Right above us. Right above us. We can't ignore it. We have to help Canada now. It's time to activate people. These videos are not about just complaining about something or saying something's great. It's about activation. It's about getting us moving. My goal is for social change with this. Many will doubt it, but that's okay. That's okay. We're putting up the good fight. Never give up, never surrender. Got that from Galaxy Quest. It's a pretty funny movie, but it's a good statement. This is William Wieting reporting from the United States. We need to help Canada any way we can. So start Googling, start sharing, start talking to people, and know, Canada, you're in our prayers, and we're also going to activate too. Again, thank you very much for watching.